So we come to the fifth of these talks. And on this particular occasion, I'm now going to make a jump. Because unless you make this jump, you will not really be able to understand what is happening. And the jump I'm going to make is to the 12th chapter of Revelation. As we make this jump, we see here an image that John is given and John sees. And this image is of the enemy himself. He is seen as a great dragon. And this great dragon, we are told, who is in fact Lucifer, or fallen Lucifer, who has become Satan. It says, with his tail, he destroys a third of the heavenly host. He wipes a third of the stars from the sky. Now, this is a very powerful being. He has caused a third of the angelic host to fall with him. These beings are in charge of the creation that God has set out. And they're still in charge of the creation that God has set out. Let's go back into the Old Testament again for a moment to Daniel. Now, Daniel is praying because he's not quite sure what God's doing, but he's praying and asking for guidance. And suddenly Gabriel turns up and speaks to him. And he says, Daniel, from the moment you began praying, God gave the answer. But when I tried to come to you with the answer, the prince of Persia stopped me. Who is he talking about? He's talking about one of these great spiritual beings who is in charge of Persia. And he was strong enough to stop Gabriel carrying the message of God to Daniel. He's holding him up. But then Gabriel says, but Michael, another great archangel, came to my help, and we overcame the prince of Persia. And then I was able to get through with the message. See, this is something we have to understand. The whole of creation as we see it is in fact being controlled by enemy forces. And we in this world, as we watch what is going on around us in this world, we wonder why things are going wrong. Well, these spiritual forces are still in charge. They're still there. They haven't yet been destroyed. And the story of Revelation is the story of God working out these final years when these forces are finally put down and destroyed. If you go on one chapter, you find that this same dragon stands on the shore of the sea, and he calls out of the sea a great beast, a strange beast. It has 7 heads and 10 horns, and this is where people get so confused, you see. He calls this great beast out of the sea. What is John being shown? Well, what John is being shown, quite simply, is something which is bigger than Revelation. It covers the whole of time. Because the beast that Satan calls out from the sea is a representation of all political power in the world. He's got 7 heads. Well, they denote different empires. It may be Babylon, followed by Persia, followed by Greece, followed by Rome. To our own society, Western civilization, they're all somehow controlled because they're all under his power. You remember Satan went to Jesus himself and says, I can give you all the kingdoms of the world. They're mine. I give them to anybody I want them to give them to. Well, he'd given his authority, his evil power, to the nations of the world, the political powers of the world. And the last of these heads is a head which is crippled. It is, in fact, an empire which has not yet come into existence. It's the empire of the Antichrist, and we'll be dealing with him later. But then, as you go on and look at this particular vision in the 12th and the 13th chapters of Revelation, you find he doesn't just call a beast out of the sea, which has political power. He calls another beast out of the lamb. People often stop, and they get confused. There's not one Antichrist. There are two figures. One who comes from political power and another one coming out of the earth. And this one represents religious power. Yes, the religions of the world are also controlled by Satan. He is trying to get people to do things against God. He is saying to them, you have to do more and more. He wants to enslave them with rules and regulations, that they will want to do things to put themselves right with God, knowing always that they can't do it. Because God's answer is not in religion. Whatever that religion may be, even the Christian religion, is not in religion. It's through faith in Jesus that we get salvation. Amen.